So yeah, it was a pretty good holiday season, but holidays being Christmas and the New Year, of course, the only holidays that really matter. And then of course white Kwanzaa, but that's
I was
thing.
going to say, didn't you have a special Kwanzaa celebration? Wasn't the Pool Party Network alive with the sound of Kwanzaa?
Well, it is, but
also you got to explain what Kwanzaa is. David Duke was talking about Kwanzaa. I didn't even know what it was, but you can explain it to everyone.
Okay, well, Kwanzaa is this supposedly African heritage celebration that was come up with by a black nationalist, a professor in the 60s or the 70s. I don't know exactly when. But the thing is, if you look at there's these 7 principles of Kwanzaa, and they have these.
I think his name was Ron Everett, Mike.
Okay. Yeah.
1966.
Yes. And they have these 7 principles. And they have these Swahili words in front of them that don't sound right, but whatever. These goofy words doesn't really matter, though. The principles themselves are sound, though. So I'm not really going to counter signal Kwanzaa. And look, I think that blacks in America should follow principles of Kwanzaa in their own communities. I think it'd be very healthy for them, rather than the kind of unhealthy relationship that blacks and whites in America have. It would be much better if blacks followed these principles and had self-confidence in their own communities. And if whites followed those principles and had self-confidence in their own community, then the black and white community could possibly come to some kind of understanding, rather than what we have now, which is forced integration and bad feeling all around. That's sort of my edgy opinion on this topic.
Well, I kind of echo that.
I'd like to add that I fully embrace Kwanzaa as a means of procrastinating on Christmas shopping, and until the.
Yeah. But no, I mean the edgy thing is because like every conservative makes fun of Kwanzaa, right? And they make fun of Kwanzaa. I'm like redoing this bit.
Yeah, we just did this bit.
I just did this bit. I'm sorry.
I'm posting it right now.
It's copyrighted bit. No, but but they make fun of Kwanzaa, but they make fun of it from the stance of liberalism. But if you're a nationalist, you see Kwanzaa, you're like, okay, I don't have a problem with these principles, and I don't have a problem with blacks living by these principles. It only make fun of them when you want to live by liberal principles, be like blacks and whites have to be integrated on the basis of anti-racist egalitarianism. But there's nothing wrong with blacks believing in Kwanzaa and believing in black nationalism, as long as it doesn't take on an anti-white flavor, which too often it does.
Well, here's the thing: blacks really aren't doing anything with Kwanzaa, so we might as well use it. Right now, the only people who are using it are public school teachers.
Right, white Kwanzaa now. Forget about white Sharia.
Well, Ron Everett, I'm just trying to recall from memory. I think he was the leader of a group called the United Slaves, and they went to war with the Black Panthers. And then he eventually was, I think he was a mole for the FBI, or at least that was suspected. He ended up going to jail, I think, for sexually abusing and raping some of his followers. And then, of course, and then while he was in prison, I think that's when he created Kwanzaa. And then, of course, as soon as he got out of prison, he was given a professorship at a prestigious university for African studies. I believe changed his name maybe at that point. I don't remember exactly. But he's a sterling character, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that is that I mean any of these like leftists, violent leftists, any number of them were given like professorships, like Angela Davis, who was a communist and went down to Cuba and was broadcasting from Cuba, anti-white propaganda, not just like pro-communist, but actual anti-white propaganda into the United States. And then she comes back. And of course, no consequences for doing this. William Ayers of the Weather Underground was given a professorship at the University of Champaign-Urbana, which is one of the most prestigious University of Illinois at Champaign, prestigious public universities in the U.S. It's like the public Ivy or whatever they call. So these radical, and this guy bombed the Pentagon. This guy put a bomb on the steps of the Pentagon. And, he was given this. So there's this problem with leftist intellectuals. And of course, black radicals were given this treatment. But again, like, I think if we separate that from the sort of ideas, I mean, principle number one of Kwanzaa is like promoting unity in the like community, nation, and race. And it's like, all right, I can get behind that.
Can I be allowed? Can I do that too?
Yeah, no,
right?
we can't. We can't do that. White people can't do that.
I'd like to do that.
That becomes a big problem. And like principle number 7 is something like faith in the struggle. And I'm like, all right, who else said that? I think there was another guy that might have said something kind of similar to that. I don't know. He used to sit in a comfy chair. But yeah. Anyway, White Kwanzaa.
Just looking at these principles now, the principles are unity, to strive for and maintain unity in the family, community, nation, and race, self-determination, collective work and responsibility, cooperative economics, purpose, creativity, and finally, faith. They are the principles of Kwanzaa. And when you actually read them, it is essentially a nationalist holiday, but for blacks.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
And really, if all blacks were to, or if all those of African descent were to adopt the principles of Kwanzaa, not only would the black community strive, but it would peacefully separate itself from the multicultural melting pot, which would obviously, in the long run, aid us absolutely greatly. And you see, once they've done that, there's no reason why we can't peacefully work alongside them, trade, have economic cooperation, but it would remove the damage of the multiracial and multicultural society, which these people clearly want nothing to do with.
Yeah, and the other thing about Kwanzaa is that while they make hay of it in the public schools as a way of teaching the white children, your holiday is just one of many of this tapestry of holidays. All of them are equal, except Christmas is maybe a little bit worse than the rest of them. They do a big emphasis on Hanukkah, which of course to Jews supposedly isn't even all that important. Although I think it is important for various reasons. And then they talk about Kwanzaa as a way of having like one more thing, and then you're supposed to learn about all the Muslim holidays. But you never learn about your own thing. And if you do, there's something either mundane about it, if not debased about it, is how you're taught. So these principles of Kwanzaa, they'll talk about Kwanzaa, but they're not going to actually put up on the chalkboard in the schoolhouse those 7 principles. Because it's just, you don't talk about stuff like that. Like, you don't say unity in the family, community, nation, and race. I mean, imagine saying that in a public school building in the United States today, in 2019. I got to get used to not saying it's 2018. I start now, it's 2019. Can't say that. Yeah.
The current year argument has moved forward 1 digit.
Yes. Well, that's why you just say it's the current year. It's always the current year.
Current year plus 4 or so now.
Yeah, we started saying that in I think that became popular in 2015. So yeah.